Y'all, I did a thing. I started Run Away With Me by Brian Selznick. I started this book. I think I started this book when I recorded my May TBR, and that Sunday I was just feeling antsy and I didn't know what to read because this book was calling my name. And I'm halfway through, which doesn't say a whole lot because so much of it is art. It's gorgeous art. It's gorgeous, haunting art. It's art that I walk through it and I'm crying. I walk through it and I'm hurting and my soul hurts and I'm lost and I want to find Angelo. In this book, we follow Danny in his summer in Rome when he comes upon the impossible boy, Angelo. And their one summer of whatever it is this is going to be. Spoiler, it is melancholic as all hell. And I am here for it. And this has actually kicked off my gay summer reading list, which is a video TBD and a whole list. And I have so many books on my sad gay summer reading. And I'm dividing them up by setting because honestly, a sad gay summer in Italy is just like the ideal heartbreak. If I go and I start a romantic fling in Italy on a summer, I know it's going to end in heartbreak and it's exactly what I need. I can't have a happy ending even though I want it. It's all sorts of toxic. That's not the point. This book, I picked it up at my local store, at my local bookstore in Chicago, at the bookseller in Lincoln Square with my friend. As we were wrapping up our day, I'm like, oh, let's go to the bookseller. It was right down the road from her. It was right down the block from her Airbnb. And this book had been haunting me. It had been following me. I had seen it. My feed, my Instagram, my algorithm knew I needed this book. And I finally saw it. I had seen it at every bookstore we went to and I didn't dare pick it up because I knew if I picked it up, I was a goner. And here we are. But when I picked it up and when I looked at the cover and then I turned it around because I'm like, there should be a blurb around here. I should not have turned it around. This is the back. Just look at that. It feels so sad. We turned hand in hand and fell off the edge of the world into the dark, wild abyss of Rome. I almost cried at the bookstore. That just sets the tone for this entire book. The art, very meticulous design of this book, just it drags you in. You are Danny as you go through this story. And Danny and Angelo are not their real names. They name each other. And let me tell you, I cried. I was reading this and I told my sister, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be reading tonight. Do you want to just hang out and read together? Because she's also a reader. She's like, yeah, sure. Come to find out, I am a dramatic reader. I kind of knew this. I didn't realize it until my sister paused every time that I gasped or I did something. And she's like, you should really record yourself reading because you are really animated when you read. And every time there's a heartbreaking quote, I stop and I'm like, and I deep sigh and I cry a little and I'm just like, oh my God. And I reflect on what I would feel like as a boy with an impossible love in summer in Rome. So hold up, the naming. Tell me this doesn't harken back to Call Me By Your Name. I have to read Call Me By Your Name now, and I have a whole new level of appreciation for that book. That's not the point here. Okay, when Angelo asks to be named. So Danny says, hey, we don't know Danny's name. Danny isn't Danny until this moment. So the boy asks, wait, I don't even know your name. And the impossible boy responds, I have no name. And the boy says, what are you talking about? Everyone has a name. And the impossible boy says, so give me one. And the normal boy says, I can't give you a name. And the impossible boy says, then I'll give you a name. And the first boy says, I already have one. And then this impossible boy that will be named Angelo says, not one that matters. And he smiled and then said, Danny, your name is Danny. He says, no, it isn't. And Angelo says, it is now. He says, oh, it is. This harkens back to a story they just said. Danny, like Bernini's assistant, Dante. Dante, I repeated, but I'll call you Danny. So Danny, what are you going to name me? I'd learned my lesson about making new friends long ago, but there was something about this impossible boy that demanded my attention. All I could think of was the church ceiling and the two angels with their curly hair and forgotten wings. Angelo, I said. Angelo. And from that moment, Danny's life revolves around the day with Angelo, revolves around keeping Angelo a secret, revolves around holding Angelo so close to him so he doesn't lose him, so he doesn't let him go. And that maybe in an impossible world, in another life, they don't have to separate at the end of the summer because his mom is only in Rome for researching and saving old books. So she's at a grant at a museum for the summer. And there is a time clock ticking. This book is so beautiful. I went into this needing the sequel to Call Me By Your Name that I didn't get. I had the sequel to Call Me By Your Name. I read it when it came out. And it wasn't what I wanted. Fault to the book, no fault to Andre Aciman. It is a me problem. I wanted something else. I wanted something to break my heart the way Call Me By Your Name did that day when I finished it. When I finished Call Me By Your Name, I was sobbing. I was a puddle of tears. I was a puddle of distress. I was so distraught. Granted, I had also been sick that week, so it was not the best week to, emotionally wreck myself, but I did. And I was just sobbing. And this book gives me the sequel I needed. It gives me, I don't know what I wanted out of Call Me By Your Name. Okay, but also, this book by itself is fantastic. It's not just an extension of Call Me By Your Name. It's not. But I needed this feeling in the sequel to Call Me By Your Name, and I didn't get it. But Run Away With Me, I see it's my love in Rome that's going to end tragically. I'm naming this boy Elio, and that is so clever to use in the first person perspective. And we only get Danny's perspective. This whole book is an immersion of Danny. Even the art, we see Angelo in the art, but we see it from the perspective of Danny. We never get into Angelo's head. We are stuck with Danny. We are stuck with his loneliness. We are stuck with his fear. We are stuck with his confusion. We're stuck as he searches for Angelo when he goes missing, as he waits for Angelo, as he dictates his life. I am 5 days without Angelo. I have been a week without Angelo. I have been 10 days without Angelo. And it's so sad and it's so trying. And I feel it every time I read it. And it's like, what does it say? What does it say? I'd been a week without Angelo. That's how the chapter starts. That's how it starts. And I feel that. I feel that loss, especially as a 16-year-old boy that wants a relationship, a connection, that wants to feel loved, that is enamored by this enigma, this impossible boy. And the vulnerabilities that come when you're 16, when you want to be loved, when you want to impress the person you love, when you don't want to be discarded, the fear of being left behind, of being forgotten, those fears transfer into adulthood. Adults are afraid of being unloved, of being forgotten and unwanted. A 16-year-old who has let himself have a friend once and who has poignantly felt the loss of that friend, who wanted that friend to be an extension of him and needed him, and they are always together, intertwined, touching, holding each other. He needed that friend to anchor him because he moved so often. And finally, having that and having it just ripped away from him. Like we hear how depressed he was when that happened. Finally having the courage again to take this step to naming this boy, naming him and being named back is courageous. It's beautiful and it's going to break my damn heart. And it has. I will probably only update after I finish this because if I update every time I'm crying, we're going to be here for 10,000 hours and ain't nobody got time for that. Not even me. Like, really, I just want to sit there and cry. I am loving this book. It's absolutely delivering. I will be very upset if the end doesn't deliver, but I will report back. It's gorgeous. Get it. Get it if you've thought of it. Get it and cry with the art. The art takes you on a journey with the story. I went through the art so slowly, so meticulously, trying to understand what I'm seeing. And the story follows the art. This is what happens when a person that is both an artist and a writer create something. You get this multimedia just gem. This is gorgeous. This book without the art would still be amazing and it would hit. This book with the art is just devastating. and I am here for it. I will update when I finish. It is currently about 1 in the morning, and I have finished Run Away With Me. I finished this maybe 5 minutes ago. I'm still processing the emotions, the interconnectivity of the story, my experience with this book, because I annotated it. I annotated this book, and I wrote in the margins. And in the margins, I continued the conversation. I wrote in the pauses, the repetition, the just the nonstop feeling of, and now I live because of Angelo. And now I'm alive because of Angelo. And I repeated, and I live, probably as much as they talked about Angelo. This book was a conversation. As I was reading it, I felt the book reading me, and everything I thought was written somewhere here. The most random things. Angelo's whimsy was something that kept haunting me, and I kept hearing like bells just with Angelo, and Angelo was a very specific person in my mind. And they talk about it. And at the end, when they reveal the secret of each other's names to one another, I don't want to know their names. I don't need to know their name. They are Danny and Angelo, because I see them forever as Danny and Angelo. I don't see them as the reality that ripped them apart. That's not my role. That's not my role for them. That's not what they ask of me. I love that this happened when it did. At the end of the story, I literally finished this 5 minutes ago. So I'm still reeling. My entire body just hurts. My soul hurts. And the idea that I wouldn't have known this book is startling to me. That I somehow would not have read this book. And this book is not only the sequel to Call Me By Your Name that I needed, it's the prequel, it's the in-between, it's the missing chapters, it's the years of Elio searching for Oliver. And this book has it all. This book fills all of the gaps that I needed in that book. And this book on its own is spectacular and phenomenal. And the art just makes it all the more fantastic. But to me personally, it filled such a huge gap in my life, in my literary life. And I'm just so grateful that this book was written. I'll put my thoughts together and I'll record tomorrow. I loved this book. And now I'm gonna shower, go to bed, and probably dream of Angelo and Danny. It's officially the next day. And I've been thinking about this book. I had a lot of notes. I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of comments about, just like between me and the book, right? About Danny, about Angelo, about the way it ended. And I think we know what Danny's name is. I don't want to know. I don't know if that's real. I don't want to believe it's real. I want only Angelo to know Danny's name. Also, so when I do like fluffy fun books, I try to coordinate the pens. I consistently finish an entire pen when I'm annotating a book. I still have leftover of this highlighter, but I did finish the pen. I had to start with a new one, and I still have the highlighter. So we'll see, because the next book I'm reading has similar color palettes, so I should probably get more gel pens. That's a problem for another day. I just wanted to comment that like I finished my pen, I still have my highlighter, and I started a new pen. What I expected, I'm not sure what I expected. So this book is young adult. It is not adult fiction. And while it does give me the same vibes of Call Me By Your Name, it gives me just that classic coming of age heartache when you know that your summer love is about to come to an end and that it might not come to fruition later. Because of the fact that it's young adult, we moved at a bit of a faster clip than I would have liked. I would have wanted an additional paragraph when Angelo and Danny are both pining for each other. I would have wanted just to sit in the sadness a little more. as terrible as that sounds. I want to just sit, and I want to feel the sadness around me, and I want to feel their loneliness and their fear and their anxiety. It was fantastic. But if this had been an adult fiction book, I feel like, one, the ending would have been way more tragic, so maybe it's better that it wasn't. Second, I would have had the space, because adults have, theoretically, a larger attention span than a young adult, and the pacing for a young adult is always much faster. I would have had the space to sit and suffer with them and feel lonely and feel fear. I don't mind that it wasn't spicy at all. Everything is implied. Everything is... They don't talk about the intimacy of the bodies. They talk about the intimacy of their souls, of their connection as people, of their desire to always hold each other and never let each other grow. And the way that this author, Brian Selznick, interweaves just a history of heartbreak in Rome, a history of these stories, of these tales of queer love that have found a way despite all odds, despite people telling them they're not allowed to love. It kind of sets the tone for possible hope, maybe? Because this book is written in first person, but like after the fact. I think it's 3 years after this summer, this life-changing summer. It says, stop, look, let's see. Everything will cleave into, history will turn into before and after, with and without, known and unknown. And that's exactly what I was looking for out of this book. I wanted this book to tell me, to make me feel that this character would have a before and an after. Because when something impacts your life to the point that you have a before and an after, you know it's long lasting. That is how Elio sees his life, before and after the summer with Oliver. That is how Danny sees his life, before and after the summer with Angelo. And I want that in my sad gay summer reads. I want the reader, I want the main character to define their life as before and after, because that is the impact that this moment of this journey gave them, and I feel it. And God, not only do the stories throughout this book, not only do they show a history of queer love in Rome from different time periods, not only does every artifact connect, every haunting unknown connect. I feel in every single story that Angelo tells Danny, in every instance in Angelo's body itself, I feel like Danny and Angelo's love is written in it. I see it in the relationship between Dante and his elephant. I see it between the relationship between Dante and Giovanni. I see it in every moment where something goes awry, where there's possible hope, where everyone dared to love, despite what everyone is telling them. I feel like that is a representation of Angelo and Danny. Angelo and Danny saw and heard themselves in every single movie, in every single song. I saw Angelo and Danny in every single story, every artifact, every statue, every historical part of Rome, because of the history that Angelo knew, because of their stories. I personally really didn't know if Angelo was real or not. I really thought it was going to be a fabrication. I thought it was going to be, I don't know, this personification of Rome. Oh my God, Angelo is a personification of Rome. That's why he's broken. That's why his body is cut open like Rome. That's why it's dissected. That's why when Angelo and Danny meet, it's Angelo's entire body is a representation of the romance between Danny and Angelo, because Angelo is literally torn open. And the more we find out about Angelo, it was like whiplash. Anytime, I was like Danny, anytime he's like, oh yeah, that's where I live, and Danny's entire world just shifted because Angelo is suddenly real again. There were moments of reality that Angelo gave Danny. Even though they wanted this just moment of unreality between them. Every moment of reality with Angelo was jarring. It was unreal. It was bizarre. I couldn't believe Angelo had a mother. I thought it was all a lie. I loved this book. I loved the obelisks and the carving and the way everything was so intricately connected. And I love that we never know their name. They are forever like Elijah and Isaac, they are forever Danny and Angelo perfect in Rome in this summer. Because without their other name, I don't know them. I wouldn't know anybody outside of Danny and Angelo. They are only Danny and Angelo to me. They have always been. And this is a snapshot of that perfect moment in time where they will always be Angelo and Danny. I loved this book. This book, it gave me, I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath for 8 years after Call Me By Your Name, because this is the book I needed as a prequel to Call Me By Your Name, as the gap between Oliver and Elio in Call Me By Your Name, as the sequel to Call Me By Your Name. This book fills in everything I needed from Call Me By Your Name. I don't know what it is. I feel this obviously cannot be Elio and Oliver. And I'm not saying that they're just perfect because of my association with Call Me By Your Name. It's outstanding on its own. But it personally gave me it filled in every nook and cranny that Call Me By Your Name left in its melancholy, in its blissful perfection, because Angelo and Danny don't have an after. That is it. This is it. Angelo and Danny have forever Rome. Elio and Oliver did. Elio and Oliver had the heartbreak. They had the real world crap that came in. Yes, Angelo and Danny have only one summer, but it is the perfect contained summer that will always be Danny and Angelo's, because whatever their real name is, that's a later period in life. But this is self-contained and perfect and everything I wanted out of this whirlwind, impossible love in Rome. It was perfect. I don't even know what happens afterwards. I don't know if I want to know. Part of me wants it, and then part of me fears that I'll get what I got after Call Me By Your Name, and that is not okay. Danny and Angelo must always be Danny and Angelo. By virtue of it always having to be Danny and Angelo, there can never be a place where they are not Danny and Angelo. Because outside of it, they would have to have real names. They would have to be real. They would have jobs, and they wouldn't have this perfect contained reality with themselves. So therefore, I can never have anything outside of this, which is good and bad and both and neither. And it's just so much. And I loved this book. And it was exactly what I wanted. It was exactly what I needed. It's exactly everything I expected. And I filled in the margin with everywhere that I needed more pining. And I needed just a little longer rumination and just reflection on the sadness and the melancholy. This book is melancholic from beginning to end. There's loneliness, there's hope, there's dread because of the hope. It's like they're holding their breath the last couple of weeks, the last couple of days, the last hours. And Angelo's just trying to give Danny one more beautiful miracle of Rome. Like their love, like their meaning, like their fortuitous living circumstances. How do they end up like this? It is exactly what I needed and what I wanted out of a love set in Rome. Over a summer, over a tragic summer, a summer that will mark the rest of both of their lives. And I loved it. Highly recommend it if you're in the mood for a sad read, a melancholic read, a read that will take you through Rome in one of those beautiful, intimate perspectives as they just search through all of the nooks and crannies of this ancient city, as they learn the history, as every stone brings a new story, and just every turn is a new experience. Every statue, every monument has something to contribute, not only to the history of Rome, but to their love story, but to their experience together. Everything they experienced together as a couple over summer, every other person that dared to love and live in Rome is interweaved with every stone, every nook and cranny, every just dilapidated building, and it's beautiful. It is so, so beautiful. And I love the inclusion of the Moone brothers. They're so critical to this. They are almost the foundation of this. And without them, I don't know if we would have Angelo and Danny. No, we wouldn't have Angelo and Danny, because his mother might never have made it to Rome for this perfect life-altering summer. I think that's it. I kind of just want to keep gushing, but even that must have a time limit if you want to keep talking about this book. talk to me about this book. Talk to me about Danny and Angelo. Talk to me about what you loved about this book. Maybe tell me why you didn't like this book. I don't know if I'm even going to acknowledge that, but you know, we can try. Try to have open to different perspectives. I don't know how open I'll be about this book. This book was just gorgeous. What did you guys think of the art? What did you think of the art? Because I was reading the story and I was seeing the art and I was seeing the shadows and the haunting and how this is probably how Danny is gonna see the rest of his life, haunted by Angelo at every turn, by the shadow of Angelo, the shadow of the Rome that they knew, the shadow of every love story that culminated in theirs and that came up in theirs and that just became part of their own story and how they left that in Rome. Tell me what you thought of this book. I'll make my book talk video a little less gushy and a little more like, this is what this book is about, and less just my heartbreak. This is exactly what I expected, wanted, needed out of this book. And it was so worth it. Let me know what you thought and let's talk about it because I gotta talk to somebody about this. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.